What is the craziest thing you've gotten away with that nobody has found out about? I'll start. Last year, during McDonald's last Monopoly contest, I won a free quarter pounder, so I cashed it in, and the girl working there absent-mindedly handed me the free quarter pounder coupon sticker thing back. The next day I got another free quarter pounder with the same coupon. TL. Doctor, I'm a boring methodica. When I was 19 I had the keys to the office where I worked in central London. It was an office of about a dozen people, and only ever used Monday to Friday, so at the weekends I went clubbing with friends, and ended up back at my office, a 5-minute walk from the clubs and above a bar, for the usual six party. No one at work found out I'd had dirty, loud six on the receptionist's table, all the directors' desks, and the boardroom table, and on the photocopier. In 3rd grade, I cheated on my history exam. In 4th grade, I stole my Uncle Max's toupee and I glued it on my face when I was Moses in my Hebrew school play. In 5th grade, I knocked my sister Edie down the stairs and I blamed it on the doggers when my mom sent me to the summer camp for fat kids and then they served lunch. I went nuts and I pigged out and they kicked me out. But the worst thing I ever done, oh sir, I mixed a pot of fake puke at home and then I went to this movie theater, hid the puke in my jacket, climbed up to the balcony and then I made a noise like this. Oh sir, and then I dumped it over the side, all over the people in the audience. And then, this was horrible. All the people started getting sick and throwing up all over each other. I never felt so bad in my entire life. I have a similar story. This was back in high school and during class my period started. I only realized this when I stood up and noticed a big red stain on the seat. I quickly grabbed a tissue and wiped it off during lunch. Fortunately no one had noticed, but when I went to the bathroom I noticed a big reddish brown stain on the bottom of my jeans. It had been raining earlier that day and I walked out of the bathroom quickly to the lunch table my friends were at and purposefully sat down on a seat full of muddy water. I jumped up and made a fuss about my ruined jeans while my friends laughed, but the mud successfully covered up blended with the blood stain. That ended up being my cover story for the rest of the day until I got home and threw my jeans in the wash. Edit. TL. DR. I got away with periods bleeding all over my jeans and seat. My work had an employee cafeteria where lunch was $1 and the food was actually pretty good. I was a freshman in college and $1 was something that was better used for call-its rather than lunch. They had these punch cards you could buy that had 10 meals on them for $8. In looking at the punch card, I realized it was just printed on normal card stock. Bought one, took a picture of it, did not have a scanner, and imported it in a graphics program. I then made 10 versions, all with different serial numbers. I printed out hundreds and passed them out to my friends at work. When we used 9 meals, we would throw it away so the serial number wasn't tracked. We would always buy random employees their lunch for them, out of the goodness of our hearts. Whenever I got low, I would just print out more. We used them for nearly 2 years, netting in at least a few thousand free lunches. Applying for college a few years back, I was invited to interview for a USC scholarship. They flew me down the day before the interview and showed the group of candidates the school. I passed by this stand asking people to write a letter to the senator to support DARPA aid. I figured, why the hell not, and wrote one out using their bullet points. Since I knew nothing about DARPA, but the girl asking was real cute. Anyway, the next day, the interview was going so-so, and the last question the interviewer asked was, "Do you follow any current events? We like our students to be well informed." Having wasted my life up till then, I immediately blurted out the only current event I could remember, the tragedy in Darfur. I looked him in the eye and made an impassioned speech using the bullet points I had copied down not even a full day before. His jaw dropped at seeing how much I cared and how well read I was and sent me off with a huge grin on his face. 2 weeks later I got a full ride to USC. When I was 16 my friend and I were driving around in his parents' car after they had left town. They told him specifically not to take the car out. We were a little high at the time and were basically just joyriding around. My friend swerved onto the side of the road and lost control of the car. We spun around a couple of times, then bashed against a concrete barrier, totally wrecking the front and passenger side of the car. After checking that we were both okay, we drove the car off onto a nearby dirt road that led to a sugarcane field. This was in Hawaii BTW. Got out of the car, grabbed a fuel can in the trunk, doused the car, lit it on fire, then ran as fast as we could through the cane. About 5 miles of running later we arrived back at his house and made a pact never to tell anyone what happened. The next morning the cops show up at his house and he tells them that the car must have been stolen in the night and that he hadn't noticed since he was out until the morning with me. Wound up telling his parents the same story. The insurance company did an investigation and wound up covering the cost of a new car. 20-something years later his parents still believe that the car was stolen that night. We've only spoken about it once since it happened. I snuck a pack of gum into Singapore. Why didn't you just go? Duck the teacher, man. You had to piss. My sister and I got in a fight, so I used a straightener on my pubes. More than D. Found a sandwich bag of mysterious white powder in some chick's purse. Some buddies thought it was drugs, so a couple of them tasted it and one guy snorted a line. The following day I found out that the sandwich bag actually contained dead grandma ashes. Yup. In college my buddy and I lived near a dude who we saw kick, hit and abuse his dog. When he and his wife were gone on an overnight trip we broke into their house and took the dog. We had an adoptive family waiting in a nearby town. I felt bad when the woman cried about the dog, but she never stopped her old man from hurting the dog, so I figured it was the right thing to do. I was president of the Engineering Honor Society in college. We had our meetings in the Dean Emeritus office in the engineering building. I had the key to the office and badge access to get into the building. I was studying for my grades in the office late one night when an attractive lady friend of mine called me to use my printer. I told her she could just come over and use the one at the e-school. I couldn't get the printer to work in the dean's office. There was a moment of now what? This was followed by me getting a BJ while sitting in the baller office chair. TLDR. Blowjobs are fun. College was the it. When I was 16, I got caught breaking into a hotel pool bar to steal booze. I ran, was chased by cops, evaded them, and hid. They eventually found me, so I ran again, evaded them again, and managed to avoid being tased. I hid again, found a disguise, left my hiding place, and walked right past them, back to my original hotel. By the time the evening was over, I had spent over an hour evading more than a dozen police officers through 3 hotels and a beach in 2 different outfits. I had more adrenaline pumped through my veins than some people do in a lifetime, and basically made a fool out of the entire police department. I dropped the screw in the tuna. I thought you pissed on the floor next to the books. Why didn't you? Reddit at work, 80% of the time. 5-10% of my time is lunch. The rest is actual work. I've been here almost a whole year. The pay is good and I need this job. Bad. I get all my work done, so honestly I have no idea what their reaction would be if they ever found. Good thing I'm the IT admin among other things, so I can wipe all traces of my Redditing. In 6th grade, the 6th grade class was rewarded with fake money for being good students. 4 times a year we had this event called Store. With the money that we earned, we were able to purchase and sell items that students brought, wanting to purchase as much it as possible. I made multiple photocopies of the fake money. I bought so much ducking candy that year. I have a ridiculous story that relates to this, but it's about my friends. They burned down a very large government building a couple years ago, so it was supposedly an accident. They had apparently wanted to see what it was like to do something like that. They had made homemade napalm and thrown it on this 80% completed building, costing millions. They had gotten away with it, but a year later felt really guilty about it and turned themselves in. Now they currently reside in a federal penitentiary serving multiple years each. Once, as a kid, I was in a friend's garden when I made a horrible mistake. I thought I felt a fart coming on, but it was not the case. I crapped my pants. My mum wasn't coming to pick me up for another hour and the horror of being found out wasn't worth it. There was only one option open to me. I promptly climbed to the top of the large tree that the garden contained. My friend couldn't get up because he wasn't quite as acrobatic as I was. I have no idea how I managed to keep up my facade for so long, but I did. Then my mum came and I left with her, coolly explaining the situation after I was away. I guess it doesn't count as no one finding out, but my reputation was unscathed. Freshman year of HS, I had only been a woman having my period for a few months, so I still wasn't quite familiar with how everything worked down there. It was history class and the end of the day. I had been worried about possible leakage but figured I could make it until I got home. Bell rings. I get up and see red smudged on the seat. Oh no. I sit back down and glance around me pretending I'm waiting for the other students to exit the row so I can get up. I waited until the classroom cleared, stood up, licked my finger and cleaned off the blood. Fast forward to senior year. I'm at retreat and we're broken up into groups of about 10. Classmates were laughing, chatting about the early days of HS when one casually laughs and mentions some girl freshman year bleeding on a seat in so and so's class. I freeze up a bit but fake a grossed out face. He had seen me but forgot it was me. Phew. TL. I bled on a seat in school and years later a kid mentions it casually not realizing it was me. Edit, change some words to avoid confusion. I am not transgender. Yeah. Nice try, mom. I didn't break that vase in 2002. I've told you 1,000 times. It was about 3 AM in the financial district in SF, and I was walking home from Minna Street when I saw a balloon was blocking a corner pole type traffic signal. I figured I'd be a good Samaritan and climb up and pull it off. About 2/3 of the way up, the entire pole starting falling over on top of me. I luckily jumped out of the way and watched as it smashed completely through the big plate glass window of the bar next door. No alarms or anything. The streets were deserted so I ran, went to a payphone and told the police that I had come across a traffic signal smashed through a bar at a certain intersection and went on my way. I have done this in the past and still continue to do so. When I am looking to buy tickets to sports games or concerts, I usually buy the e-ticket where a customer would just print them from their own printer. I would buy the cheapest tickets possible, usually somewhere around $5, and about an hour before the event, check the website for available lower level seats. I would then Photoshop the section, row, and seat to the unsold lower level seats. On my $5 seats, print out the new altered tickets that have the real barcode but fake section, and any usher will point you in the direction of your new better seats that you only paid $5 for. Trolling at its finest, folks. I was about 5 or 6 and playing on a friend's backyard playground with a few other neighborhood kids. Just as I was using the monkey bars, my friend shouted, "EW. Someone stepped in dog poo." I looked down at the stairs leading to the monkey bars and saw poo smeared on them. We all checked our own shoes and I, like everyone else, exclaimed that it wasn't me. After realizing none of us had done it, my friend announced that everyone can come inside for some snacks. I began running with the rest of the kids to the house but then remembered the dog poo on my shoes. I'm just going to run home real quick. Why? I'm thirsty for some milk, but I have milk here. As I ran towards my house I shout back, "I like mine." I got inside, quickly changed my shoes, drank milk. Hey, I didn't want to be a liar, and headed back to my friends. No one ever learned it was me that stepped in the poo. Back when I was 15 or so, some friends and I had these homemade rockets. Not like fireworks, but the model rockets you could shoot 100 feet in the air and they would parachute back down. We were up in the hills shooting them off when one of them misfired. It started a small fire in the grass. We tried to put it out but it spread faster than we could handle. We ended up having to sprint down the hill from the fire because it was moving so fast. I called 911 and we all jumped in our cars and sped off. We parked a couple miles away and watched in horror as the fire spread across the hills towards a housing complex. 5 or so fire trucks arrived and saved the housing complex from burning down. Took them the rest of the day to get the 4 burning hills under control. The police called me back on my cell phone and I told them I was driving by and called the fire in. Nothing else came of it. TLDR. Friends and I started an enormous fire in the hills that almost burnt down a housing complex and nobody found out it was us. A few years ago, when I was about 19, I was visiting the girl I was dating at the time in New York with a buddy of mine. It was New Year's and my friend and I had been drinking beer since 4 PM and were pretty buzzed by the time people started showing up around 9:30. They asked us to come into the kitchen to do a shot of Malibu rum with them. I don't usually like coconut rum, and I can't really mix beer and liquor, but I decided to suck it up and do it, mainly to impress the girl. The second it's done I can tell I am going to throw up. So I casually walk away and back into the den. I then proceeded to projectile vomit the pasta I had just eaten in a line about 2 feet long. I then proceeded to vomit 2 more times right after that, but I managed to keep it in my mouth. The only thing I could think of was to swallow it back down, so I got it down after a few agonizing seconds and realized I had to clean up quick. And luckily I had a paper towel left over from the pasta. I wiped it up in one swift motion, then poured some beer on it to cover up the smell. Just then they walked in and asked what happened. Oh, just knocked my beer off the counter. Don't worry, I've got it covered. Duck yay. I was bullied a lot in high school and really only had one friend, but he had a load of friends. He told me about a party that he was going to, and he assumed that it would be cool if I went since we were both friends. Well, I got there, and people would wait for my friend to leave and team up bullying me around and being geese. So when my friend came back, he would walk away talking and mingling and leave me while he went around mingling with people. I told him that I need to use the bathroom, then we can go. Now, it was one of those, the kids share one bathroom and the parents use the master bathroom. So I went up to the bathroom, used the bathroom, and then glanced over at the shower and saw girly shampoo, and some normal kind, like Head and Shoulders or something which I don't remember. But there was girly and normal. So to get back at the dude who was throwing the party, he was also being one of the assholes. In fact, he was the one getting people started and riled up on ducking with me. So I grabbed the normal shampoo and jerked off and came into it, closed the lid, and then put it back and walked out. No, I did not shake it up, because I wanted his next shower to be a wad of jizz in his hair.